Hello, Mayor Brindle.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. I'm so thrilled to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining me on Michelle's Conversations That Matter.
I'm thrilled to be here. It's been a real pleasure to be invited and included on Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes, absolutely. And that is exactly why I reached out to you. I thought, who should I be talking to showcase what it means to make a difference in the mental health space?
Whoops, hold on, bear with me. I'm going to
Okay.
share my page. Okay, sorry about that. I was
That's
sharing
okay.
you to my page.
Thank you for doing that. And so I was thinking, who should I talk to? Who could I bring to my audience to really showcase an example of leadership when it comes to mental health? And of course, it's you. I sit on the council with the rest of the amazing human beings in Westfield, out to create a stigma-free community. And I thought, I have to have you on. You are a perfect example. So thank you for being here.
Well, my pleasure.
Awesome. So
thank you for serving on the council too, I might add.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So we are going to talk about what it takes to build a stigma-free community in hopes that I can maybe inspire people through your story of what it takes and things that they can do, that it's not that hard, as we were talking before we went on. But before we do, just a little bit about the series. I created Michelle's Conversations That Matter to really elevate the conversation around mental health, to inspire people, educate people, different types of mental illnesses, and just have them have a healthy relationship to the brain. What I do professionally is I work with organizations to bring psychological resilience to their people so that they feel balanced and able to enjoy their life and engaged in what they're up to. I also help build compassion in the workplace, which I think is really important. And we're going to talk about cake, so it ties in beautifully. But for those who do not know you, could you kindly introduce yourself, who you are, where you live, and what you do?
Thank you very much. I'm Shelley Brindle. I am currently the mayor of Westfield, New Jersey. I've been the mayor for about 3.5 years. I became the mayor after I left a 27-year career at HBO and wanted to leave to create another chapter in public service. And so just by almost happenstance, it fell into local politics. But my background is on the corporate side in the private sector. And so the whole political realm and mayor is fairly new to me, but it's been a really incredible 3 years.
Awesome. So it's been 3 years. That's amazing. I feel like, that's amazing. Tell us a little bit about your story, your backstory. Why is mental health and eradicating stigma so personally important to you?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. So my backstory is I grew up in Virginia, and I was actually grew up in a military family. My dad was an Air Force pilot, and I have 2 older sisters. And my dad was killed in Vietnam when I was 6 years old. So my mom raised my 2 older sisters and me as a single mom. And I think early on, I think certainly as kids we absorb, what's around us, right, more than what's said. And so I watched my mom successfully struggle, I might say, to ultimately end up supporting my sisters and me. But, there certainly wasn't the type of support available for her at a time that I think probably she really would have benefited from it, and talk about resiliency, right? And then you move that to the present day. I have 3 kids right now, 2 in college and a son in high school. But when I was running for mayor, my 2 daughters were in high school, and I was working with a lot of high school kids that were serving as interns on my campaign. And just between what my own kids were saying and what I was witnessing amongst these high school kids, in spite of the appearance of these, whether they were top athletes or top band members or top scholars or whatever they were, there's this common thread of anxiety and stress amongst every single one of them that overrode any of the joy they were getting out of their, incredible experience and achievements. And it felt like almost a crisis to me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but think, like, oh, what are we doing to our children, right? And I think certainly in probably a high achieving community like ours, talking about these struggles is, everybody shows up to, wants to see the great stuff, but no one really wants to talk about how they're struggling. So it was very apparent to me that we need to normalize the struggle, because what was happening amongst my interns, it became this safe place where they could share their struggles. And there was this enormous sense of collective relief that they could share it. And it's not the life that everybody shows up on social media, right? We all know what that does, certainly to teens. So when I was elected, that really stuck with me. And I was lucky also to meet a lot of really incredible mental health professionals in our community. And, I shared with them kind of my concerns and made a commitment that, if and when I was elected, we would certainly make mental health as a real clear priority of my administration. And we have, and it's been just so fantastic when we formed this mental health council by ordinance to watch this group flourish and really result in a lot of the efforts that are coming to fruition this month in particular.
It's awesome. And we're going to dive into that. I do want to acknowledge your green for Mental Health Awareness Month. We are in Mental Health Awareness Month. There's a lot of great conversations going on out there, and we're going to share what we're doing in Westfield to really elevate the conversation. So, but before we do, I do want to talk about, the mental health challenges that have come out of COVID. I say this all the time. The CDC says 1 in 3 are dealing with depression or anxiety right now. And it's very real. And I also want to acknowledge you for the amazing communication you've had throughout COVID to really help sort of relieve some of the anxiety and stress, that came at us through the media and the news. I know for myself personally, I turned all of that off and really focused just on what you were providing because it was just the facts. So I thank you for that. And I know that that's helped my personal mental health. But I do want to talk about now the council. And so how did the council come to be? I know you came into office with a remit to do something. So tell us how it came to be and how we got assembled.
Well, it's pretty easy. I just think as mayor, I think beyond the stuff everybody expects in terms of paving roads and responding to constituent concerns. I do think you have an obligation to set kind of priorities and values and a culture of the administration and your community. So I felt an obligation that mental health had to be put at the forefront, just like, we have a regional public health department. I mean, public health isn't just getting, flu shots. It's mental health is a key component of that. So in order to do that, we did a call out for volunteers, laid out what we wanted this mission to be. And I do want to give a credit there. Ellen Devon and Liz Jeffrey were 2 residents who were kind of key to initially getting this started and helping me really be clear about what the mission was going to be, what's achievable. Because, you can put all these commissions together, but often I wanted to make sure that there was actionable outcomes that could come out of this and how are they going to be measured. So before we even did the call out for volunteers, we were very clear on what the mission was, what the deliverables were. And then we just did this call out for volunteers, sharing that mission statement and saying who could participate. And, we had an incredible number of people submit volunteer applications. And then we wanted to assemble a group that was representative of diverse members in the mental health community. Like, we wanted to make sure we had medical professionals, social service people, residents without any specific experience, so that we made sure that we had the input from a very diverse group of perspectives. And honestly, we put them together. Are very happy that our superintendent, our Board of Education superintendent, Dr. Dolan, was also one of the key constituents, as was our regional health director, Megan Avalon. So we are kind of like the co-committee, if you will, and set the mission on this group on with this particular mission, and let the Mental Health Council decide how that was going to, let them organize themselves, right, to figure out exactly what they were going to accomplish. And I think that's essentially, and then I got out of the way. Yeah. And the trick is really putting the right people in place, giving them the mission, and make sure they know that they're going to be supported. And you've had a firsthand seat at watching that unfold. And like any of them, it often takes about a year or two to kind of find your footing and figure out, okay, where can we really make a difference? And that's what you're seeing, I think, in particular this month. And it's been like a joy for me. Like I said, I've kind of stayed out of the way, and just came in as necessary. But it's been incredible joy to see the progress, and very importantly, bringing in the high school kids, the youth advisory committee to participate, because they just bring a whole nother element to this, which is so critical.
So my hope with this interview today is we inspire other leaders, and regardless of where they are in the state of New Jersey or beyond, that they can do this. And I think that your message with what you just shared is build it and they will come. Create the structure and they will come, because that's exactly what happened. You probably had an overwhelming response. And I remember completing my application and being like, wow, this is an exciting time. So build it and they will come. And I think that's important for other leaders who might think like, how do I even get started?
Yeah, and I think it's also important, though, and this is just to me a general rule of thumb for volunteers in anything, like feeling supported and feeling that their ideas will be actionable are really important, because, you know, we all have very, very busy lives. No one wants to sit on a council just to fill a seat. You want people volunteer, really talented people volunteer because they want to feel like their contributions are making a difference. So it's really important as a leader that you create the support and ensure the support for their ideas to be actionable. And that in of itself just continues to inspire others who want to participate, because they say, I see that happening and I want to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the branding behind what we're up to. I love the branding that we're doing. I love what we're up to for May Mental Health Awareness Month. But tell us a little bit about the image of the layer cake that we see throughout the town of Westfield. What does this cake stand for, and why is the branding so important, and how did it come to be?
Well, you know, and I was in on some of these initial meetings. So one of the members of the council, Ron Holmes, who's a former HR professional, I can't even remember where he had, I think it was in some hospital setting that they talked about this CAKE acronym, and it stands for compassion, acceptance, kindness, and empathy. And really those things add up to being a stigma-free community. And what I like about it, it really broadens the definition of mental health, right? It's really about mental wellness, and it's who wouldn't want to have those as your kind of 4 guiding values in your community, right? So it's something that everybody can relate to and everybody can participate in. And not to mention, it has kind of a cute acronym that you can do all kinds of very fun and clever, creative things with, right? And the cake crumb trail that we're doing now, and just, share a piece of cake. I mean, you can go on, and it kind of adds a little bit of mystery into, oh, well, what is that? Oh, yeah, I want to be part of that. So, so it started with Ron, and then, we have incredible volunteers who created this logo for us. And we've got stickers. Our police have put it on their cars. We put it in stickers of downtown stores. And I just think that it's also aspirational, right? I think like anytime, it's just a reminder for how we should be and who we want to be. And just sometimes putting those reminders everywhere. And oftentimes, it's the kids that will point to it and say, hey, it kind of reminds us when we get into places maybe in, social media behavior that we shouldn't be. Oftentimes it's the kids can point to it and remind us of how we should be interacting with each other.
So that leads me to May's Mental Health Awareness Month. You mentioned the crumb, what is it called? The crumb walk?
The crumb trail, our cake crumb trail.
Tell us about the activities that we have lined up this month.
So what we've done is we've created this, we have a pamphlet, and I would actually encourage everybody to go to westfieldnj.gov/mental health events. And if that shows you, we have a pamphlet that you can download. And essentially the Crumb Trail gives you, it's a little guided tour of different points in town that have demonstrate something about cake. And so, for example, we have a store in town, Savory Spice, that you and I talked. They have a great, beautiful cake in their window with the things, with those 4 tenets of cake in them. There's also, we've got the MLK Junior Memorial place, because certainly MLK was someone that expressed all the values of cake. We've got the 9/11 Memorial. We've got this place, a brand new garden called Veronica's Sensory Garden that a Girl Scout just did for her gold project. It's a sensory garden that she did to inspire kids with special needs. So you get this, you download this little map, and it takes you to these incredible little places. And when you go there, you can read about what that happens in that particular site and how it relates to those 4 key tenets. And so it's just a way, we hope that parents will take their kids. It gives them something to do on a beautiful day. And I just think it gives kids and parents, I think, talk about it. What does that mean? What does it mean to be a kind person? What does empathy mean? And, I could see that could inspire a really meaningful conversation in front of the MLK, monument. So that really, it's about a way to get the community engaged in a fun way that we can do together and just remind them what's about these 4 key values.
That's great. I've seen the logo at the police station, in town, on a banner. It's popping up in
our police love it, and
yeah,
they put their logo all over their cars, and we've got banners around town with our cake logo, and and we hope that it becomes recognized often enough, like branded, so that you see it, just this cake thing, and you know exactly what it means, and hopefully it's a little reminder. Yeah, maybe I should, make sure I do something that operates in those ways today.
I love it. And there's also the programs that have been brought by the council to the community. I know there's one coming up on the 19th called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. And that's going to be happening. So anyone who would like some tips on mindfulness and understanding stress, that's a great session. I know it's offered complimentary, so just go to the site. What else is going on?
We've got a documentary film that we're showing on May 20th. It's about spreading hope and preventing suicide. We've got all this information. One of the things that's important to know about the mental health, what they've done is initially we got together and we realized there was all these mental health resources available, but they were spread out through all these different places. And so one of the key goals was just aggregating all that information in one place so you could have a central source to say, okay, what's going on? So a lot of the events that we have are things that we're just promoting on behalf of others. There's a whole mental health calendar that you could go on and get all these different events. So the mindfulness one that you just mentioned is one that's the mental health brought on, but a lot of the ones that we promote are being done through all these other different places that we just want to make sure that we can be a platform to make sure that they get recognized. And so that's one thing I would encourage everybody to do is go onto that calendar, onto the website, and they can find all the mental health resources and things that are available to them.
Awesome. Thank you for highlighting that. I think it's super important. So what is your hope? When we look at communities in general, you have the elderly population, you have the young people that you're concerned about. We also have a suicide challenge. You look at the data around adolescent suicide, that's really scary. So we have a lot of populations who've just navigated this pandemic. And so what is your hope for the community with the work we're doing in the council and what you're out to create in the community?
When you talk about Stigma-Free, it's again, normalizing mental health conversations just like you would your physical health conversations, right? And it shouldn't, and just take any shame or insecurity or whatever about it. And I love it. You just talk about I went and, I'm going to go see my therapist, or I'm doing this just like you would if you're going to go get a flu shot or something. Foremost is really ultimately what we want to do. And I also think what you mentioned about different constituencies, the mental health piece just goes across the board. And definitely the pandemic has highlighted really the desperate need we have to provide adequate mental health support. There are those that were suffering beforehand that are just exacerbated by this pandemic. And then I'll be honest with you, I think, now that we're coming out of it, I think we all anticipate some PTSD going on, and we need to be prepared that we've got the support for that. But also, like you mentioned, seniors, another group that we started was a group called Lifelong Westfield. And Ellen Devon from the Mental Health Council, she initially talked about it, and seniors in particular, prior to the pandemic, even more so, they suffer from isolation, they suffer from loneliness, So the Lifelong Westfield group that we have, which supports our seniors, is now working hand in hand with the Mental Health Council to make sure that a lot of the resources that we provide, that you all have helped initiated, are available to the seniors as well. And there's been a really great, integration, if you will, of some support across the board for seniors, which was definitely more so than ever needed during the pandemic when, they really, they went without seeing family and so forth for over a year. So
and my heart went out to elderly people who could not see their loved ones. Just so hard, so hard.
Absolutely.
So what is your message to another community leader who says, I know I need to do something, but all my energy should be here and I got to focus on this? Like, how do you help them sort of get the courage to take an action to do something about mental health and removing stigma in their community?
Yeah, as I said before, it's, sometimes taking the first step is the hardest part. And I think when you anticipate how hard something's going to be, you think it's not as hard as you think it might. And I think it's just really important if you could find one or two people in your community. Like I had this, I guess I mentioned, Ellen and Liz initially were really instrumental in helping me shape what it needed to be. And then as I said, once that was the hardest part, is figuring out what this is and what the mission is. And that's helpful to have just a couple to trusted folks. It could be, if you have a public health person, it could be anybody. But I can promise you, there is somebody in your community that it cares and is passionate about mental health.
Yes.
I don't care how big or small your community is. I can promise you that. Yes. And you just need to find who they are and get it started, and then let them run with it, and then let them tap into those different organizations. And also, like, and I talk about individuals, but it could be an organization. I mean, we are very lucky that we have, we have the Y, and we have Caring Contact, and we have, a ton of resources that we knew it could. So if it's not an individual, it could be an organization in your town that could potentially help you partner and get it started. All you need to do is say, this is important to us as a community. Help me figure it out. That's all. That's all they need to hear.
That's awesome. You're right, because people do care. And if you think about how many people in a community have been touched in some way by mental illness, whether it was themselves or a loved one, we've all had some type of experience around mental health, and that alone could have people want to be a part of something a little bit bigger to make a difference.
And you're absolutely right. Like, everybody, I have family members that suffer from depression, and there's other folks that I know that have just suffered a mental breakdown, and it's everywhere, and it's everywhere. Yeah. And I think there's almost, when you put it out there publicly, like we've done, there's almost this collective sigh of relief, of acceptance.
Yeah,
I'm not alone.
Right.
And you give. Even just pronouncing, like when we did our proclamation, pronouncing that we are a stigma-free community, just pronouncing that alone it relieves some people's anxiety about, I'm not alone. This is a safe place for me to talk about it, and that's been that makes me feel so great. And you realize, like, once you mention, like, you share your story. Yeah. And then everybody's like, oh my gosh, well, I can't tell you how often that happens all the time. I'm sure you see it all the time.
Yeah. Tell us about the proclamation, because I think that's an important step for any community leader to think about so did you just say this is the natural next step?
Yeah. So, yes, absolutely. And I think that was, once we developed the Mental Health Council and then developing a proclamation, that's not hard, declaring Mental Health Awareness Month and declaring Westfield a stigma-free community. And as I said, like, sometimes those things that you do are just asked. When you say you're going to be this, it kind of enables you to be it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it just kind of puts a stake in the ground, as this is who we are and this is who we want to be. And then people live up to that. Yeah. And I think I really believe that, like, when you aspire to do things and say, this is who we want to be, people will follow suit.
Amazing. So we're at the end of our time together. I just wanted to ask you, do you have any other final thoughts or words of wisdom that you want to share around Mental Health Awareness Month, or anything around Westfield?
Yeah, no, I just want to thank you, Michelle, for your passion and support and bringing this to the forefront. I said, if anybody wants to learn more about how to create kind of this type of mental health council and becoming a stigma-free community, I'd be happy to talk to any other municipal officials or anything else, for sure, and just help them get over the hump and say it's not that hard. And I would just invite everybody to join our, go to our website. The mental health events, our mental health at westfieldng.gov, mental health events and mental health council, and learn about everything that we're doing. And, we have resources. We talk about, like I said, a youth advisory council. There's all kinds of information. And if anybody has things that they want to bring to us, that they want to share, that they want us to promote, that they feel like that there could be potential partnership opportunities, we are open and willing and love all of those things to spread the good word about how mental health is as important as physical health, and they are interchangeable to all of our well-being, and to be a healthy, kind, accepting, kind, and empathetic community. So.
Thank you so much, Mayor Shelley Brindle. Thank you for the work you're doing in this town, for leading in the mental health space and showing everybody that we can do this. And thank you so much for joining me today on Michelle's Conversations That Matter.
My pleasure. All right. Best of luck, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.